In this unit, we will further discuss whether you apply the UCC to a particular contract or whether you apply the common law to a particular contract. As we said, the UCC applies to the sale of goods. But what if you have a sale of goods and you have a legal issue, but the UCC is silent on that legal issue? In this unit, we will discuss what you will do. What if you have a contract that involves both goods and services? This is what we call hybrid contracts or mixed contracts. So it could be a contract with goods and services, or a contract that involves goods and intellectual property, or a contract that involves both goods and real property. Do you apply the UCC or the common law? In this unit, we will answer that question. All right, so let's take a look at UCC 1-103. Now, you will notice that this is not UCC Article 2, this is UCC Article 1. In our course, we're going to focus mostly on UCC Article 2, but UCC Article 1 has general provisions that applies to the entire Uniform Commercial Code. So sometimes we will take a detour into Article 1. Let's look at 1-103. Unless displaced by the particular provisions of the Uniform Commercial Code, the principles of law and equity, including the law merchant and the law relevant to capacity, to contract, principal and agent, estoppel, fraud, misrepresentation. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. What this provision is saying is that if the UCC is silent on a matter, if you have a sale of goods and the UCC is silent on the matter, you apply other laws, including the common law. So you indeed might have a sale of goods where you apply the common law. Why? Because the UCC is silent on the particular legal issue. My professor in law school called this the flip-out clause. So the idea is that if you have a contract for the sale of goods and the UCC is silent on the matter, you flip out to the common law. All right, let's talk about hybrid contracts, contracts that involve both goods and something else, such as services, real property, intellectual property, other common law issues. So here's the first example. We have a contract for the sale of a house and all its furnishings. Well, the sale of a house is governed by the common law. A sale of furniture is governed by the UCC. So if we have some sort of legal issue under this contract, do we apply the common law or the UCC? Here's another example. The sale and installation of an oven hood. An oven hood, of course, is a good, but installation is a service. Under this contract, if there's some sort of legal issue, do we apply the common law or the Uniform Commercial Code? How about the license of software? The license of software is governed by the common law. Software is not a good. But what if the software comes on a thumb drive or a CD? Clearly the thumb drive and the CD, that is a good. In this transaction, do we apply the common law or the UCC when we have some sort of legal issue? This is important because sometimes the common law approach to a legal issue and the UCC approach to a legal issue are different. So which law you apply could be dispositive of the case. Let's look at how the common law and the UCC might address a legal issue in a different manner. All right, fact pattern is the same. In one instance, we're going to look at the common law approach. In another instance, we're going to look at the UCC approach. The contract is a contract to install an in-ground swimming pool between homeowner and contractor. It includes ladders, diving boards, etc. The diving board breaks and the homeowner is injured. The homeowner wants to sue contractor for her physical injuries. Under the common law, the homeowner would generally sue in tort. And in a tort claim, she would have to show that the contractor was somehow negligent, that her injuries somehow were caused by negligent actions by the contractor. In the UCC, however, under the UCC, the homeowner would sue under what is called a merchant's implied warranty, or an implied warranty of merchantability. An implied warranty of merchantability, the merchant warrants that the goods are fit for their ordinary purpose. So under a UCC lawsuit, the homeowner would just need to show that the diving board was not fit for its ordinary purpose. Now, what would a lawyer do? Well, a lawyer is going to sue under both tort and the UCC. But my understanding is that for the lawyer, the tort lawyer, that the UCC claim is an easier claim to prove. All right, let's talk about hybrid contracts some more. Specifically, let's talk about the law. Now, when you have a hybrid contract, you will apply a test called the predominant factor test. Courts have fashioned this test. It is now a common law rule. So you have the UCC. The UCC is silent on whether it applies to hybrid contracts, and so the courts have flipped out and created a common law rule called the predominant factor test. So if the goods are the predominant factor of the contract with the services or the other common law element incidental, then we will apply the UCC to the contract and resolve that legal issue using the UCC. Of course, the reverse is also true. If the non-goods element, if the common law element, the services, the intellectual property, or the real property was the predominant factor of the contract with the goods incidental, then we will apply the common law to the contract and resolve any issue under that contract using the common law. Of course, the facts are very important to this analysis. Look at the word predominant factor. Predominant is a vague term. Anytime you have a vague term in the law, especially contract law, you will have to look at the facts and do a deep analysis based on the facts. What are some facts you will look at? You will look at the cost of each of the elements. You'll look at the cost of the common law element if it's available, and the cost of the goods element if the cost is available to you in the fact pattern. You'll look at the time involved in the common law element generally if it involves services. How long does it take for the person providing the services to provide these services? You'll look at the skill that's involved in providing the services. These are all things you need to consider in determining whether the goods were the predominant factor of the contract or whether the services or the other common law elements were predominant. All right, let's quickly review what we have learned in this subunit. We talked about the circumstance when the UCC is silent on the matter. You have a sale of goods, but the UCC is silent on the legal issue. Well, then you flip out to the common law. We also talked about the situation where you have a hybrid contract, where the contract involves both goods and services. Do you apply the UCC or do you apply the common law? Well, first you're going to apply the predominant factor test. If the sale of goods is the predominant factor, you will apply the UCC to the legal issue under that contract. If the common law element, the services, for example, were the predominant factor of that contract, you will apply the common law to any legal issue arising under that contract.